for silent prayer or meditation. Thanks. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order of the day.
Reply by the President to the debate on the State of the Nation address.
The Honorable, the President of the Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Honorable Speaker, do you want to do that? Speaker of the National Assembly, Chairperson of the Council of Provinces, it's a pleasure once again to be here amongst you. And I wish to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to all of you as honorable members who participated in the debate yesterday for firstly asserting that indeed a new dawn is upon us, but also embracing the call for what I would call a new partnership to build our nation in which all can be free, in which all can be secure and feel equal as South Africans. I wish to thank all members, and particularly those who actually participated in the debate itself and made wonderful contributions, as well as a number of really good suggestions. I would characterize the debate as having been a most meaningful debate, a debate that, as some of the colleagues said here, in many ways engaged with the issues that most directly affect our people. And what I'm most appreciative of, Honorable Speaker and Chairperson of Provinces, is the decorum in which the debate was conducted and the respect that was shown, not so much to me, but to members towards each other. Even as members tended to differ, even as others were way off, and even as others said slightly embarrassing things, the dignity of the House was maintained, and in a number of ways it was also restored. That for me was important. But I also saw it through the lens or the prism of our people, because I look at this House, Honorable Speaker and Chairperson of Provinces, and I see this House as a House that do not belong to us, members who sit here and debate. It belongs to our people. This is our people's house. This is our people's house because we were all sent here by our people to come and represent them. And they expect that when we are here in their house, a house that they built with their blood and their sweat, with their aspirations and their hopes, with their needs as citizens of our country, they expect that we will conduct ourselves with the level of decorum that they expect us to behave ourselves in their house. So I'd like us to be always mindful of that. The dignified manner in which the debate was conducted was very much in accord with what our people expect of all of us. As honorable members met yesterday to debate the State of the Nation address, ordinary South Africans have also been very busy discussing the very matters that were being discussed here. They, since the State of the Nation address was delivered, were also busy on a variety of platforms. And they were expressing their views on social media, in traditional media, and many also commented on government communications platforms, and some have even shared their views with me, and I'm sure some of them have shared their views with you as well, as we have passed each other in the corridors of buildings and in the streets of our country. This morning I had occasion to take my early morning walk in Guguletu through to Athlone, and I was joined by many people from that area, and a number of them had occasion to comment on the State of the Nation address. And since delivering the SONA address, I've been humbled and encouraged by the response of people from all walks of life, from all varieties of work callings, and all of them have been infused by this new era that they believe we are in, and they see this as really heralding a new South Africa and a better South Africa for them. They have been galvanized by a sense of patriotism that elevates the interests of the country above narrow, and some of them have said, narrow party political interests. They are moved by a conviction that tomorrow will be better than today, and they're looking forward to this era transporting them to a better future and a better tomorrow. They have, to a man and a woman, all been saying they are ready to lend a hand to build a South Africa that will benefit all our people. As I've met people on the walkway, they have said, President, send us, send me, send me. That has encouraged me. I've received messages from many people consisting just of those two words. What emerged clearly from the debate yesterday is that all members of Parliament are committed to build a nation where progress is measured not by growth in GDP or global competitiveness rankings, but by how the lives of the most vulnerable of South Africans, the most marginalized of South Africans, can change for the better. That is how they are measuring it. Honorable members, we are building a nation where our greatest concern must be those in society who have the least, the poor, the unemployed. The most important people in this country are not those who walk the red carpet to Parliament, but those who spend their nights on the benches outside the gates of Parliament. They are the most important people. The most important people in this country are those whose checks are flooded, those whose checks are flooded with every rainfall, and whose taps run dry whether there is a drought or not. It is those who have been looking for work their entire lives, who have had to drop out of school. Those are the most important people, who are suffering from preventable diseases, who have been orphaned or abandoned, who rely on an old age pension, and who do not have the seed or the implements to work their small piece of land. To me, those are the most important people. They are our people. So in the end, in everything we do as government and as a society, these are the people, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of provinces, whose interests and needs must of necessity come first. These are the people whose voices must be heard. They are the people we all collectively are being sent to. All of us, like Brahim Masekela said when he said, "Send me," we are all being sent to those people to improve their lives, to heal their wounds, and to make their hope a reality. Now, at the center of this approach to improving the lives of our people is the Madiba way of getting our people involved in changing their lives for the better, or making them, as Madiba urged, to become their own liberators. This is what Madiba taught us. It is to advance their interests that we have called for a new social compact, founded on the principles of social justice, solidarity, and equality. It is only by bringing all social partners and all South Africans together in pursuit of a common national agenda that we will be able to defeat poverty and inequality. Collaboration, therefore, partnership and consensus building are essential features of our rich African past and will be central in determining our future. Some of you have said, well, President, you come before us, but you don't have a plan. You come before us and you're calling for summits and conferences and so forth. Yes, you are right. But we have a plan. I have a plan, and it's the National Development Plan. That is our plan. And I come before you, yes, calling for summits, calling for all those consultative processes, because our people want to be involved. They want to participate. Throughout our history, we have used collaboration and partnership to overcome the greatest of difficulties and resolve the most intractable problems our country has gone through. It is our intention through initiatives like, yes, the Job Summit, which, by the way, has been called for by the trade union movement in our country. The federations that represent the working people in our country are the ones who have said, we want a job summit because we want to sit down with government, with business, with communities, and ourselves as workers to chart the way forward on how we can create jobs. Now, a clever government will heed that call and say, yes, that's what we want to do. Yes, we want a social sector summit as well to bring together all our people who have the skills, who have the insights, who have the experience and capabilities to address the critical challenges that beset our country. What we are about is to build consensus. We want to invite all South Africans to participate, but more than that, we want South Africans to lend a hand. Remember Hugh Masekela, let me lend a hand. This is how our people want to be involved. They say, nothing about us without us. Nothing about us without us. We should also remember how the Freedom Charter was written, how volunteers through the length and the breadth of our country spread out throughout the country to collect the demands of the people of our country for discussion at the Congress of the People. We should remember how we wrote the Constitution that we now today call the best Constitution in the world. We had and received 1.7 million submissions from ordinary South Africans. No wonder South Africans regard this Constitution as their very own, because they own it. They feel that this is the Constitution that represents their views. This is the Constitution that also defines their identity. That is how South Africans want to be treated, to be involved. Now, we should never pour cold water on the need for people to meet together, to collaborate, to discuss matters, whether it is in a summit, whether it's in a workshop, whether it's in a conference, so long as we are clear on what we want. What do we want from an investment conference? I would like to have the best companies in the country, the best companies in the continent, as Minister Naledi Pandor said, and I would want to have the best companies in the world to get together to make commitments on investments that are going to create jobs for our people. That is what I want. Now, what we would like to see is to mobilize all South Africans to achieve this vision that was set out by our people in the Freedom Charter. As leaders, whether in government, in business, labor, or civil society, we have the responsibility to build consensus. We have a responsibility to work together. When I addressed this parliament after my election, I said, I will also be reaching out to all the parties that are represented here. And I'm going to start the process of meeting various leaders of political parties here with a view of finding a way in which we can work together to advance the interests of our people. That is what I would like to see. Yes, of course, we will differ. We will differ, Mr. Maimani, on a whole number of things. We will differ, Reverend Mishwe, on a whole number of things. We will differ with my comrade, Cyril Malema, on a whole number of things. But one thing that we will unite on is advancing the interests of our people, because that is what has brought us here. What has brought us here is working for our people. Now, encouraged by the response of our people and by the views expressed in yesterday's debate, I am confident that we can move with urgency and purpose to forge a new social compact, to revive our economy, to create jobs, reduce inequality, and effect fundamental social and economic transformation. I am confident that while there will necessarily be much contestation and vigorous debate, all parties represented here in this parliament are committed to working together to make this a reality. I concur with the sentiment expressed yesterday that we need to unite, yes, as parties, to support this pursuit of a developmental state as well as an inclusive economy. If we are to work together effectively, we should be prepared to engage each other on matters of national importance and also on matters on which we disagree. On such fundamental matters as the redress of the injustices of the past, we should not simply agree to disagree. We must discuss and debate with a view of persuading one another. Yesterday, there was a concern raised about Black economic empowerment and affirmative action. One of our members raised such an issue. There was a suggestion that young white people are excluded from jobs. They are also excluded from bursaries and opportunities based on the color of their skin. We must not ignore such concerns because they are being expressed, and we must not just dismiss them willy-nilly. Nor must we just say they don't matter. We must engage with them and we must address them. And as we address them, we should be mindful of this, for the statement that young people, young white South Africans are unfairly disadvantaged by affirmative action bodies. That statement is not borne out by reality. The reality we know does not bear testimony to that. Data from the Statistics South Africa indicates that white young people still do better in development indicators such as education, employment, entrepreneurial opportunities, and well-being. Unemployment among Africans stands at 30% and just under 7% for white people. Big difference. So one can never say the others are much more advantaged than the others. Employment prospects still favor white young people as compared to their black compatriots. And that is dealing with reality, the reality that is born out of evidence. They are still more likely to complete matric and progress to tertiary education than young black children in our country. They are more likely to complete tertiary education and proceed into the labor market with better prospects. White South Africans, particularly men, still dominate at the senior levels of the economy. That cannot be denied, that cannot be disputed ever. Now, a few years ago, it could be about even 10 years ago, there was a front page article in the Financial Mail which depicted a number of young white business people, and the wording went, yes, like, it's never been as good as it is. Because what it was trying to say is that for white people, much as democracy came and arrived, the situation was still just as good for them. So the notion that, yes, they have reversed cannot be true. In fact, those who have reversed are black people. And we need to keep that in mind as we deal with the problems that beset our country. We have made significant progress since 1994 in addressing these racial disparities, but we clearly still have a long way to go. We have even further to go to address gender disparities in our country. It is therefore critical that we accelerate black economic empowerment, employment equity, and the transformation of our education system. That is what we need to accelerate. We should emphasize that the task of building a united nation that belongs to all South Africans, black and white, does not suggest that we ignore the legacy of our apartheid or colonial past. On the contrary, the creation of a non-racial society requires the liberation of Africans in particular and black people in general from the economic and political bondage that still holds them back. That is our task. Let us remember the contract we all entered into as South Africans when we adopted our constitution. It says, "We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past. We honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land. We respect those who have worked to build and to develop our country and believe that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, united in our diversity. We therefore, through our freely elected representatives, adopt this Constitution as the supreme law of the Republic so as to, 1, heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, and also to lay the foundations for a democratic and open society in which government is based on the will of the people and every citizen is equally protected by the law. Also to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person, and also to build a united and democratic South Africa able to take its rightful place as a sovereign state in the family of nations. And then this preamble, this beautiful poetic preamble, and ends, may God protect our people, Nkosi sikeleli Africa, Morena, boloka sitjhaba sa heso, God sien South Africa, God bless South Africa, Mudzimu kha phatsitshedze Africa Tshipembe, hosi katekisa Africa. Now, this commitment we all made must inform the debate we need to have on all fundamental measures that we need to take to redress what went wrong in the past, and the actions we need to undertake to heal the divisions of the past in order to establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. Now, you may ask, why am I going through this? I'm going through this because someone referred to the original sin that was committed in this country. The taking of land from the indigenous people of this country was the original sin. It caused divisions, hurt, and pain amongst our people. Now, what we need to do is to be aware of the fact that we are all called upon and enjoined to heal the divisions and the pain of the past. And this is a collective task. It's not a task of the African National Congress alone. It is our task as a nation. It belongs to all of us. Yes, Julius Malema is just as much your task as it is my task. Yes, Musi Maimane is just as your task as it is my task. Everybody, it is your task as well that we should address this issue. Now, what is that task? The return of the land to the people from whom it was taken speaks to precisely what we need to do to heal the divisions of the past. Whether we like it or not, that pain persists. I'll tell you why it persists. This morning as I was walking in Guguletu into Athlone, I meet a gentleman. He's 73 years old, and I ask him, where do you live? He said, I live here in Athlone. I used to live in District 6. And he says to me, I was moved from District 6 with my family, and my house was bulldozed. And to this day, I do not have a house. I rent a house. I lost everything that I had. Now, that is a pain that needs to be addressed. It is a division that we must heal. So therefore, what we need to do, South Africans, fellow South Africans, we need to interrogate the statement that expropriation of land without compensation is incompatible with growing with a growing and flourishing economy. We need to respond to the view that what we propose represents a violation of the spirit and the intent of our democratic constitution. There are a few in our country who would contest this fact, that dispossession of black South Africans of their land contributed fundamentally to the impoverishment and disempowerment of the majority of our people. Very few people will dispute that. Now, Mr. Cedric Alberts, that's his name, was removed from his land in 1969. To this day, he still has that pain in his heart. So what should we do as South Africans? Should we say to Mr. Cedric Alberts, forget it, that belongs to the past. Just forget it. He had a beautiful house, wonderful memories. His dignity was razed to the floor. It was destroyed. What should we say to him? His family story illustrates in vivid terms the pain and the damage caused by the former rulers of this land. The expropriation of land without compensation is envisaged as one of the measures that we will use to accelerate redistribution of land to black South Africans. We will need to determine collectively how we can implement this measure in a way that promotes agricultural production, improves food security, advances rural development, reduce poverty, and strengthen our economy. For it to serve this purpose, we need to see and locate this measure within a broad, comprehensive land redistribution and agricultural development program. This is a profound responsibility that has been given to our generation. All of us collectively have this responsibility, and it's a responsibility that we cannot walk away from. We owe it to our ancestors and to our children to ensure that we fulfill this responsibility. In dealing with this complex matter, we will not make the mistakes that others have made in dealing with the question of land. We will not allow smash and grab interventions. That we will not allow. We will handle this matter in the same way that we have always handled all difficult issues in our country. We will handle it with responsibility. We will handle it in a way that is not going to damage our economy, that is not going to damage agricultural production, that is not going to reduce or damage food security in our country. That we can assure you of. We will always seek to do things that are going to advance the interests of our people. This includes, Honorable Buthelezi, how we will also handle the issue of the Ingonyama Trust. No one is saying that land must be taken away from our people. Rather, it is how we make sure that our people will have equitable access to land and security of tenure. That is how we are going to handle this. We must see this process of accelerated land redistribution as an opportunity rather than as a threat. And I'd like to invite all South Africans not to see this issue, this pain that many of our people are still going through. We should never see it as a threat. We should rather see it as a great opportunity. A number of white South Africans, as it is now, and companies who own land have decided that they are going to grasp the nettle and see this as an opportunity of redressing the past, the injustices of the past, the divisions of the past, so that all of us collectively as South Africans, we can move forward knowing that we have addressed the original sin, we have addressed that which has been dividing us, and that we are moving forward with great purpose as South Africans, having resolved what others would have called an intractable problem. So I'm inviting all of us to see this as a great opportunity, to see this as a matter that we can address in the typical Madiba way. We should see this as something that frees us all from the bitterness and the pain of the past, but also allows us to move forward, look forward to the great opportunities that our country holds up for us. Another grave historical injustice that we need to correct is the economic inequality between men and women. It is a task that requires both a deliberate bias in economic policy towards the advancement of women and a fundamental shift in almost every aspect of social life. One of the programs where we have sought to integrate various approaches is the She Conquers initiative, which aims to empower adolescent girls and young women to reduce HIV infections and tackle gender-based violence, keep young girls in school, and increase their economic opportunities. It recognizes how patriarchal attitudes, social pressures, unemployment, and lack of adequate health and other services conspire to reduce the prospects of young women, and then involves young women in overcoming these challenges. This is one of the ways we are working to build a nation that is prepared to confront the many different ways in which women are subjugated, marginalized, and overlooked. A nation that wages a daily struggle against patriarchy, discrimination, and intolerance is a nation that will win in the end. That is the nation we are building today. We must all work together to tackle chauvinism, which is experienced by women in the workplace and in other social settings. We must confront the social and economic factors that prevent young women from completing school, entering higher education, and graduating. Government has adopted an integrated program of action to eliminate all forms of violence against women and children. With the support of communities, we aim to prevent such violence by transforming attitudes, practices, and behaviors. We are working to provide a comprehensive package of services to women and children that are affected by violence, and to improve the provision of long-term care, support, and empowerment of survivors of violence. These are crimes that often occur within the family, and therefore it is critical that we do make this we do not make this just a purely criminal justice issue. It is a social issue that we must engage with, we must get involved in it, and we must mobilize the whole of society. We must be prepared as government to acknowledge that where we have failed our people as a government, where we have made mistakes, we will take steps to correct those mistakes. One of such was the Marikana tragedy, which stands out as the darkest moment in the life of our young democracy. Members will recall that the Commission of Inquiry, headed by retired Judge Farlam, investigated the direct and root causes of the tragedy. 3 broad areas were identified for action: compensation for the injured and the families of those who lost their lives, examining the procedures of public order policing, and preparing valid cases for prosecution if there are, according to applicable laws. Government is making progress in continuous engagement with the legal representatives of the victims, especially on matters of reparations to the families who lost their loved ones. This must be concluded in the coming months. The incident also brought into sharp focus the distress felt by people in mining communities. As we engage with mining companies, unions, and communities on the finalization of the mining charter, we need to ensure that these measures receive priority attention. And I would like to use this opportunity to address what role I played in my capacity as the Lonmin director in the events of that tragic week. Notwithstanding the findings of the Farlam Commission on my responsibility for the events that unfolded, I am determined to play whatever role I can in the process of healing and atonement for what happened at Marikana. And in this, I am guided by the needs and the wishes of the families of the 44 workers who lost their lives, their families both in the Northwest Province, but their families also from where they have come from. Alongside Marikana, the Life Isidimeni tragedy stands out as an instance of the most appalling dereliction by the state of its duty to its people. We welcome the arbitration process led by former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke and are determined that we should never allow anything like this to happen again in our country. What has become clear over the last few days is that South Africans really want to contribute to making a difference for the development of our country. South Africans who may in the past have felt alienated, disillusioned, who may in the past felt distant, are now coming forward and saying, we want to contribute, we want to be involved, because they would like to make a difference, they want to contribute. Let me cite two examples of Cape Town residents that I happened to meet just yesterday morning. One of the people I met was a gentleman who runs a factory manufacturing textiles that employs 65 people. He said that after listening to the State of the Nation address, he was so enthusiastic about the prospects for our country and the need for everyone to lend a hand, that he has decided to expand his business, along having seen how the rand has regained its fortunes and had strengthened, and he's decided that he's going to employ more people and start making more products for the South African market. And this he does because he wants to lend a hand. He said his confidence in the economy derives from the commitment of the government to provide sound leadership, create certainty, Mr. Steenhuisen, root out corruption and end wastage. A young woman I met spoke enthusiastically about her plans to start a business. The only thing she asked was that government take steps to bring down the cost of data, which was the greatest impediment to the success of her business. That's what she says. This shows that South Africans are not short of ideas and initiative. It is our responsibility as government and as members of this parliament to give them the means to unlock that potential that they have. One of the ways we are responding to the particular need of these young women is to bring down the cost of data through the competition market inquiry into data services. At the same time, government is working to create a conducive environment for investment in efficient networks that enable the reduction of costs, enhance competition, and remove barriers to entry by various businesses. As indicated in the State of the Nation address, we will therefore expedite our engagement with the industry to conclude the allocation of radio frequency spectrum, creating regulatory certainty and predictability. The need for government to support entrepreneurs has emerged as a recurring theme in the broader debate on the SONA address. This morning, as I walked with several people in Guguletu, I met a woman called Tuleka who said she runs a bag-making business. She started her business with 3,000 Rand with a partner, and she's been running a business in the township in her bedroom. Today, this business has a net asset value of 700,000 in 4 years' time. Now, what does she need? She said, President, all I need is that the government should roll out infrastructure in our townships so that we can build industries. She says, what I need is a factory space, because once I have that type of infrastructure, my business will flourish. The other area we've received complaints on is the inability of government to pay its suppliers within the required time, within 30 days. Yeah. Mr. Ismail Ibrahim wrote on Facebook, he says he has been struggling to get his money out of a government department. And another gentleman said, I'm a small businessman trying to start a business the honest way. I've been sent from pillar to post for the last 7 years between departments of water, energy, and the city of Tshwane. I have stood in queues for days and only get excuses or no response at all. My business, he says, will create jobs, but government red tape is stifling our entrepreneurship. Please help. The frustration that these entrepreneurs have to endure at the hands of the very state that is supposed to assist them is a matter of great concern. It is clear that the failure of some government departments to pay suppliers within 30 days has a devastating impact on small and medium enterprises. This is something that I want to see addressed as I visit government departments. It's precisely this matter that I will be raising with every government department as I go around all our departments. Because through this type of laxity, we are damaging black business, we're damaging emerging business, and this is something we shouldn't be doing. A number of speakers in the debate yesterday highlighted the urgent need to address financial, operational, and governance problems at our state-owned enterprises. I particularly welcome those honorable members who offered concrete suggestions on how we can do this. I truly welcome this. In addition to the steps announced in the State of the Nation address, and also the financial management of specific SOEs, we are developing an overarching SOE strategy to support the development growth trajectory of our state-owned enterprises. We will soon be completing the work on a new centralized ownership model that will allow for better strategic alignment, improved coordination, and more effective oversight. This is the thought that was posted here by Honorable Shivambu as well. It is proposed that this include a state-owned company coordinating council, which will be chaired by the president, which will be responsible for high-level strategic direction. The new ownership model will incorporate new methods for funding SOEs, which could include a shift towards a greater mix of debt and equity type of finance. Where circumstances are suitable, and where the developmental function of an SOE is not compromised, there may be opportunities to involve strategic equity partners as minority investors in some of our SOEs. We are going to be meeting the board chairs, the CEOs, and the chief financial officers of these companies to clarify their commercial and developmental mandates and discuss their plans for financial stability and the promotion of local manufacturing as well. On one of the matters that was raised by Minister Patel and Honorable Shibambu, government will continue its work on the establishment on a sovereign wealth fund in line with the resolutions of the 54th National Conference of the governing party. We will look at the experiences of countries such as, yes, Singapore. We will look at the experience of countries such as Norway. We will look at the experience of countries such as China, which have all successfully built sovereign wealth funds which act as custodians of the resources of the nation for future generations. There are a number of industries that have an important role to play in growing of our economy and creating jobs. And these will be looked at very closely by this coordinating entity that we are talking about. So we also mentioned that areas like agriculture, mining, and tourism are areas that are going to need support and investment, and these are areas that we see as growth sectors of our economy, and we will continue to shine a light of focus on those areas because they are in the future going to be great job creators. We were reminded by Sipho Sithole, the founder of Native Rhythm Records, that the cultural industries make a significant contribution to our economy and employ many people. Cultural industries have great potential for growth, but require greater attention and backing from government. As we indicated in our State of the Nation address, the work being done to grow the economy and create employment needs to take place alongside decisive interventions to support people who are poor and people who are vulnerable. We agree that the high levels of long-term unemployment means that we must think differently also on an issue like social grants. We are therefore engaging our social partners through NEDLEC on a comprehensive social security reform which will, amongst other things, enable us to provide a longer and more comprehensive system of unemployment insurance alongside a system of mandatory death and disability social insurance benefits. And a number of speakers commented favorably on our decision to institute a review of the configuration, the number and the size of national government departments. And I'm glad that a number of people have reflected on this. These changes will obviously only happen when we have gone through the review process, when we have gathered the evidence that we need to gather. So changes of this nature need to be well considered. They should be based on evidence, and in the end, they should not be made in haste. I know that a number of members of this House want them to happen yesterday. They are not going to happen yesterday. They will be given proper consideration. This review, which we expect to take a number of months, will be based on a thorough analysis of the suitability and the costs of the existing configuration. It will involve broad consultation, and listen to this. Listen to this. This is where you, the noisy ones on this side, will also have an opportunity to make your inputs. It will involve broad consultation so that the views of a broad range of stakeholders are considered so that South Africans understand the full rationale for the decisions that we are ultimately going to take in this regard. Now, I've also noted during the course of the debate several comments that have been made about a number of members of the executive. Whatever the views that any one of us might have, this does not justify in any way whatsoever the type of character assassination and insults that have been held at members of the executive. And on the matter, as this matter has been raised repeatedly here, on the matter of the composition of the cabinet, an announcement will be made by the President at the appropriate time. So don't go ahead of yourself. So don't go ahead of yourself. This matter will be addressed, and I can assure you, when it is addressed, it will be addressed very carefully without any noisy interventions that I am hearing on this left-hand side. The work we must undertake to tackle corruption and state capture has quite correctly featured prominently in the debate. It is time that we implement our resolutions on the conduct, also on matters such as lifestyle audits of all the people who occupy positions of responsibility. Now, if there ever has been anything that many South Africans would like to have line of sight of, is the lifestyle audit of their public representatives. Now, that is something that I believe we have to do. And this will be done starting with the executive of the country. Yes, we will go in that way. I am heartened to have heard that the Commissioner of Police has also said that the high echelon of the police will also go through lifestyle audits. Now, that is positive. Now, as we indicated in the State of the Nation address, we are equally determined to tackle corruption and other economic crimes also in the private sector, because we can never think that corruption is a monopoly of the public sector only. Institutions like SARS, the Reserve Bank, the Financial Intelligence Center, and our law enforcement agencies work together to detect and prosecute tax evasion. South Africa will continue to play a leading role in international efforts through structures such as the OECD, the G20, and others to tackle the various forms of tax avoidance. We are reminded in the House, or we were reminded in the House, of the responsibility that we have as South Africa to the peoples of our continent and around the world who continue to suffer occupation, discrimination, and oppression. At this moment, we wish to express our deepest concern at the continued imprisonment of Palestinian children in Israeli jails. We reiterate our call to the Israeli government to engage in a meaningful dialogue with the Palestinian leaders to find a resolution that affirms the equal rights of both people to self-determination, freedom, and security. On Friday last week, on the day of the State of the Nation, the South African training vessel SA Agulhas returned from an Indian Ocean research voyage. This had provided 20 young cadets with on-the-job exposure for being at sea during a voyage that lasted 80 days. Now, today, 2 of these young people are present here today. Ms. Ayanda Meya and Mr. Mluleki Kwela. If you can stand up so that the people here can see you if you are here. There they are at the back. Now, these are young South Africans who have chosen this profession. Ms. Mia is from Empangeni, and she studied maritime studies at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Mr. Kwela is from Umlazi and studied maritime studies at Durban University of Technology. Now, Mr. Sihle Zigalala is here, and I think he's here deliberately because he has ushered these 2 young people from KZN. We welcome you, sir. Now, we welcome these 2 young people to join this joint sitting today because they are among the young people who have seized this opportunity available to them to develop their talents and to pursue careers of their dreams. They are among the new generation of South Africans who are at the forefront of our effort to develop our oceans economy. We welcome you, young people, to this joint sitting and wish you all the best in developing your skills and furthering your careers. You are indeed the future of our country. In conclusion, allow me, as I conclude, to thank all of you who participated in yesterday's debate by ensuring that we had a robust, quality discussion on various challenging issues, particularly the challenges that are facing our people. I also want to thank the people of South Africa for having responded enthusiastically to the call that went out during the State of the Nation. There is a lot of hard work that lies ahead of us, but I am certain that if we harness the energy, if we harness the wisdom, and if we harness the talents of all South Africans, we will surely succeed, because a new dawn indeed has arrived in our country. What we all should be doing as South Africans is to get up and stand up and say, yes, send me to Mamina, because we are all ready to serve our people so that South Africa can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We thank you, Mr. President. Honorable members, I wish to make a small announcement. Honorable members, order, members, order. Members, Those of us who are registered with VETS and the University of Johannesburg, please remain after we have adjourned the House for a briefing with the Honorable Didiza. This concludes the reply to the President. This concludes the reply by the President to the debate on the State of the Nation address and the business of the day.
You're watching live visuals out of Parliament in Cape Town, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has just finished replying to the State of the Nation address debate. Well, a standing ovation today from the House for the new President of the Republic, stamping out corruption in the public and private sector, improving the lot of our poor and marginalized, curbing unemployment, and promoting South Africa as a prime investment destination, featured highly in this overall upbeat delivery this afternoon. Well, in the last few minutes, President Ramaphosa, in his usual charming, eloquent manner, reflected on the review of the configuration and size of government departments as a cost-cutting measure. But he says these changes will only likely take place once the review process, which will take some months, has been concluded. On state capture, the President says lifestyle audits should be run on public representatives, including the higher echelons of the police services. President Ramaphosa says he's equally committed to tackling corruption and commercial crimes in the private sector. The President earlier praised MPs for the way they conducted the joint SONA debate yesterday and says he's still committed to engaging with all political parties in the interests of advancing the country regardless of political differences. He is, of course, replying, or just finished replying rather, to the marathon debate which lasted for almost 10 hours yesterday. Overall, a much more temperate, even mood in the House than we've seen in recent years. Well, it will be interesting to see how the new administration goes on to address public sector corruption in the country, including provincial governments and key public institutions, and how our new president balances the need to maintain unity within the ANC with the need to install a new cabinet which can instill confidence amongst both locals and foreign investors. Of course, we are now very much in a honeymoon period where public and investors are hopeful, but can the new president keep the momentum going until the elections next year, and also lay the groundwork in policy terms for a new economic path or trajectory which will address both growth and inequality? Of course, all this will become much clearer as the Ramaphosa administration settles in. But for now, let's move on to other news. President Cyril Ramaphosa says expropriation of land without compensation will heal the divisions and pain of the past caused by the forcible removal of people from their land. Responding to issues raised during the debate of the State of